faith that Kyle Shanahan can win a Super Bowl with the 49ers wavered at all. Asking because I think a lot of people, when talking about firing Kyle Shanahan, they're like, that's way too dramatic. Also compare him to Andy Reid, who once he found his quarterback, found his guy, has won 3 Super Bowls, back-to-back Super Bowls. You see how his Andy Reid's success in the Chiefs, and you kind of are like, well, suck to be the Eagles who got rid of him. Do you think that Kyle Shanahan will end up winning a Super Bowl with the 49ers right now? How's your faith in that? Changed at all? How do you feel?
I feel like this was a season where it needed to happen, right? Just because you have this all-star roster on paper. You are the
All-star
best
roster in a
team in the
down
NFL.
NFL. Down
Yeah.
NFL too.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, Kyle Shanahan being the play caller that he is, like, that's a big part of it, right? But what he's lacking is still, like, the nuances of being a, like, great head coach, a Super Bowl winning head coach. Let me just say that. I don't know, I don't want to say he's not a great head coach, but a Super Bowl winning head coach. I think he's still missing some details. I think when you see a team like, you know, the Chiefs, for example, and how they operate now and how much attention to detail they have over everything, how they literally go over every single detail to exhaustion. To exhaustion. Like the players talk about it. And not every team that has won a Super Bowl does things that way. But if you look at some dynasties, Bill Belichick with the Patriots,
Very prepared.
if you look at some of these teams, like they do it with a great play caller slash head coach, a great quarterback, and being a stickler for the details. I mean, and I'll even say this: like Mike Tomlin isn't, he's won a Super Bowl with Big Ben and all that, but I kind of see him as a very similar coach because he to me, I think he's very detail oriented. That's part of the reason why he hasn't had a losing season as a head coach, right? So, but also they're dealing with their own things, so I don't want to make this about them, but yeah, I think if you have all the pieces like the 49ers did this season, you should be able to get it done. Um, yeah, it just seems like those certain moments in games, there's maybe not enough preparation for that. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not in, the team meetings. I don't really know how Kyle Shanahan, runs his ship, so to speak, but it definitely feels like there's something missing there. And, that's just the reality of it. Like, do I have faith that he can eventually get a Super Bowl win? Yes, I do. Do I have faith that's going to be with the 49ers? I don't know. I mean, he's definitely going to be here for the next, I don't know how many years, but if he doesn't get it done in like how much time is Jed York going to give him? I guess I think he's going to continue to give him more time right now, but
By the way,
that can change.
side note to that, I feel like Jed York looks so stupid for taking his stupid victory lap a week early. I don't know.
What was
I
his
didn't like
victory
the
lap?
vibe of that. I didn't when he took his press conference and talked about how they found Brock Purdy and all the success they've had this season and how Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan, and John Lynch are safe for life. And not that those things can't be true. I just feel like they don't need to be said until feels like one of
Yeah.
those things you would say after a Super Bowl win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was like a victory lap or anything. I mean, he's owner. He's gonna get interviews during Super Bowl week. I don't know. That
Yeah.
personally didn't bother me too much, but I know I did see people talk about it.
I think when talking about Kyle Shanahan and maybe on that unprepared thing, the two things that stand out to me the most was one, Brock Purdy saying that they were not expecting as much man coverage as the Chiefs played, said that that really threw him off guard. So I kind of don't love that the offense potentially was unprepared for what they were going to see defensively and, shocked during the game. Potentially, I don't know if that means they didn't feel like their offense was geared in a way that was going to beat that, or maybe Kyle Shanahan did the adjustments in game and they still felt capable, but just were like a little bit startled that they had to change it during the game. So I felt like that was one thing. And then also have to talk about the overtime situation. Eric Armstead, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk all saying that they did not know the overtime rules. I don't know if Kyle Shanahan knew the overtime rules. To me, um, his decision making and rationale for not deferring was extremely flawed. At first, during the game, people were kind of freaking out on Twitter about it, and I actually thought, okay, it's fine. His defense was just on the field for a really long time. I kind of understand if you're trying to give your defense a break. I understand that. He was asked to clarify 3 separate times in his postgame, "Did you do this for your defense? Did you do this to give your defense a break?" He gave his rationale, which I'll get to. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And then a reporter after that was like, gave him another out and was like, "Cool explanation. Are you sure it's not because of the defense?" And each time he was like, "Nope, definitely not for that reason." The reason he did give was because he thought that it's smart to take the ball first. That way he could have gotten it third if that situation presented itself. But for people who are watching, don't understand the overtime rules, because Chris Jones ended up talking about this after the game as well. Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, made that decision only thinking about what would Kyle Shanahan do if he was Andy Reid, instead of asking what would Andy Reid do? Because Andy Reid said there would be no third possession because if both of us were to score a touchdown, I'm not going to give the ball back to Kyle Shanahan. I'm going to put the ball in arguably the most talented quarterback in NFL history, definitely currently the best most talented quarterback in the NFL. I'm going to give it to Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to go for 2 and I'm going to rest my little head at night either knowing that we lived or we won or lost the Super Bowl with the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. Andy Reid was never going to give the ball back to Kyle Shanahan and let his defense try to stop them from scoring a field goal. So I felt like that was just asinine decision making based on Kyle Shanahan. Because what that told me is Kyle Shanahan was like, well, if I was in that position, obviously I'm not going for 2. And it's like, okay, well, we're not asking what you're doing. We're saying, what is Andy Reid going to do with Patrick Mahomes? And so he made a game like changing decision based on a scenario that was never going to happen. And like it had to be so specific. Both teams had to score a touch. Like he completely, to me, he seemed very, very unprepared for that situation. He also, when asked if he would like change any game decisions that he made, I don't know if this was like kind of code, but he said that the only thing he would change would be if there was something he was unprepared for. And I don't know if that was him maybe kind of admitting like I was unprepared for this. I don't know how you don't tell your players about the overtime rules. To me, that's horrible. I mean, these what the players put their bodies through in order to not know the game situation. Kyle Juszczyk said that he thought that they won the game. Friggin' Eric Armstead said that it was during the game that he sees the rules as they're going on the field. Posted, I guess they had them on
Yeah,
the
they put
field or
him on the
something
yep.
on the jumbotron. Um, I don't. Yeah, I think bad luck, especially considering Kyle Shanahan was, drinking a lot this week. I I'm sure there's some guy who's that's his job. Kyle Shanahan said that there's analytics people that he consults with. Maybe it's someone's job and someone told him that that is a better opportunity. To me, it's just a bad luck. It was just a bad luck on Kyle Shanahan. Um, I'm not saying he'll never win a Super Bowl with the 49ers, but this was definitely the most disheartening I felt about him. I think in other big game losses, there's been that, Jaworski Tart drop, the Jimmy G overthrow, Kyle needs his quarterback guy. This felt like an unprepared, sloppy performance that was a team letdown, but Kyle Shanahan is the head coach. And so if it's a team letdown, that falls back on him. And also just Kyle Shanahan as the coordinator felt like he was out schemed by Spagnuolo. So it's just like in both of areas, head coaching wise and offensive coordinator wise, I felt like he underperformed in this big game, and there was no one kind of to blame except for himself. So that was my takeaway. Don't think one, he's not going to get fired, so it doesn't matter what I think. Two, I don't think he should be fired, but I definitely felt the most doubt that I felt about him winning it with this team than I ever have before.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the overtime decision to get the ball first, I mean, now knowing what the Chiefs would have done, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered either way. So I think it would have been more important for the 49ers, and there were far more like egregious things that happened in
In the game.
regulation, and you should have been able to finish the game in regulation, before this overtime thing even happened. So, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with his rationale, for making that decision. And again, I don't think it would have mattered either way.
Can you kind of explain, just because maybe I don't like understand it. Why do you think it's okay, and why wouldn't it have mattered if they would have deferred?
Um, so if they
And
would
I'm
have
more just asking, like, based on, like, I don't super understand all the rules in general, so I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just, like, wanna
yeah,
understand.
so if they would have deferred, I mean, the Chiefs get the ball first, and I think they probably would have scored a touchdown, and the 49ers would have then looked to do the same thing. I guess like we don't really know what would have happened in that case, but uh, the reason I'm okay with the decision is, um, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think l- the way he was playing it out, I guess, I can see why he would have been trying for the third one, but I guess the problem with that is you're just kind of assuming what the other team would do at the same time. So, um, yeah, I don't know. That one for some reason just didn't bother me as much as it seems to bother other people.
No worries, okay.